penalty and told Fredo that he'd better become a lawyer. Well, I don't want to characterize it, but it was strange for somebody still alive. Greetings and welcome, Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network at 800-282-2882, the email address lrushbaugh@eibnet.us if you want to communicate that way. And once again, great to be back with you. I have an overriding sense of foreboding here. I'm really in a dilemma as to how much of what I really think do I share with you. Some of it I can't. I'd be run out of this studio on a rail if I were to tell you some of what I think. And I'm talking in terms of what needs to be done, not the circumstance that we're in, but the solution. Because the overriding sense of foreboding I have is that this cannot go on. This just can't go on. We cannot go on like this for months. We are going to destroy the country or the economy, however you want to look at it. This is, whatever, the favorite word of millennials is sustainable. Well, this isn't sustainable. And we as a society down the road are going to be faced with some really, really serious questions that we cannot avoid. The longer we go, the more unavoidable answering some of these questions is. And I don't mean to be speaking cryptically. I'm doing something that's somewhat uncharacteristic for me. I'm speaking safely here. I'm trying to dance around this, but this just can't go on like this. Somebody called me yesterday, Rush, what do you think that the recovery will look like? And I kind of blew the answer. I was getting my feet wet yesterday. I've been gone for how many shows did I miss in a row? I was in such a fog, I don't even know. Was it 5 or 6? It was 10 shows. And my absence was not a vacation. I mean, I was not staying informed as I was away because I was not capable of it. So getting back yesterday was getting the voice back up to shape and in gear and getting my brain back up to speed and engaged. And so I kind of blew the answer. I said, what's the economy? I said, well, it's going to roar back. And I said, wait a minute, that's not true, because it's going to take what to roar back? It's going to take money. It's going to require people having money to roar back. And the longer this goes, the less people, the fewer people are going to have any money to ignite the economy. Now, there will be stimulus impact. The government will take, no doubt about that. I mean, there will be a recovery. Don't misunderstand. But the guy wanted to know, is it going to be massive all at once? And I said, no, it won't be that. It'll be phased, staged, simply because even if that magical day comes where somebody says, and who is it going to be? Who is going to say, okay, folks, go back to work? Well, the president might, or might it be Dr. Fauci? Well, whoever says it, are people going to go, oh, right, and leave? Are they going to still be a little trepidatious? Because all of this is based on one thing that we don't have. We don't have a vaccine for this. We don't have a vaccine. So, and until we get a vaccine, like I just was listening to Governor Cuomo here, and he said that he was giving his daily briefing to the people of New York, and he said that when we finally get a test, when we get a widespread, quick test to determine who's got coronavirus and who doesn't, that will determine when people go back to work. Well, that would be great, but I don't know if that's true. Okay, so you test negative, but there's no vaccine out there. What happens if everybody heads back out? And a vaccine is not, folks, a vaccine is not on the horizon for at least a year. They're doing clinical trials on drugs. You know, the chloroquine and zithromycin is the most promising thing. If there is developed a medicine that can deal with this, then that would change things dramatically, and hold the line until there is a vaccine. But a vaccine, that's what separates the coronavirus from flu. We've got vaccines for it. We know the mutations. We're not up to speed on the coronavirus in that way. So you have the medical reality, and then you have the economic reality. This can't go on. I mean, how many people want to see the United States economy destroyed? I doubt very many. But then what is going to be required to prevent that from happening? Well, it's going to be people going back to work. It's going to be things reopening without a vaccine. What that expose people to? Serious questions. All I know is that what's happening now cannot go on. This business of shutting down until the end of June or the end of July, and then putting people in jail if they leave their homes, which, what governor? Maryland said that? That's not sustainable. That's not, we can't. Well, don't, you know, Mr. Sturdley here with a little prof note saying that the JICOMs are back to work. Don't believe a damn thing coming out of there. They've already reopened the wet markets. They're selling bats. They're selling live bats for food at the Chinese at the Wuhan wet market. I am not. They say that their number of cases is declining. And of course, the Chinese economy is getting back, but the Chinese government is so different. We don't know what they did to make this possible. How many people did they drag out of their homes in Wuhan and just murder and then bury in concrete plots to get rid of this virus? They don't have a vaccine either. The JICOMs don't have a vaccine. If they do, they're not sharing it with anybody. We're not going to do that. We're not going to drag people out of hospitals or out of their homes and take them and put them in what are called re-education camps or whatever the Chinese do. Look, this is a communist government. They have an entirely different view of the value of life, the quality of life, and all that. And if they detect any single person being a culprit here, that person is in deep trouble if the state finds out about them. But yeah, I don't know. You can't trust anything coming out of China. It'd be great if it were true. It'd be great if you could look at the Chinese model, say, okay, they're back to work. Their number of cases is falling. Their economy is getting back up to running, and it took 3 months. So using that as a guideline, but we don't see the same pattern happening here. However, there is this story. This is, interestingly enough, this is from CNN, but what is the actual source? The headline, coronavirus death rate is lower than previously reported, study says, but it's still deadlier than seasonal flu. Now, this is a study from a good old Imperial College again in London, which gave us this original model that 2.2 million Americans could die if we did nothing. 500,000 in the UK die if we did nothing. Of course, we're not doing nothing. We're mitigating all over the place. Social distancing, quarantining, sheltering in place, and all of this stuff. But this study from the Imperial College in London, and it was published in a highly respected medical journal called Lancet. And it says that fewer people die from coronavirus than previously thought. In fact, this report from Imperial College in London says that 0.66% of infected people die. Now, that's more than from the regular flu. The regular flu mortality rate is 0.1%. But this is far lower than the 4% that we were told for months, and it's lower than the 1%. Remember when Dr. Fauci, this is the kind of stuff, I must say, it irritates me. Dr. Fauci came out and reported that the mortality rate for coronavirus is much lower than we thought. This is 2 or 3 weeks ago. But he said it's still 10 times deadlier than the flu. Well, guess what the headline was? The story was that coronavirus is much less deadly than we were originally told. But then Dr. Fauci said, but it's still 10 times deadlier than the flu. The reason for that is the flu mortality rate is 0.1%. Coronavirus rate at the time was thought to be 1%, or 10 times 0.1% of the flu. Now, Lancet is saying that 0.66% of infected people die. So the number of deaths from coronavirus continues to be reported as declining. Study says the lower number is due to taking account of the number of people who have milder cases of the coronavirus. And in fact, Governor Cuomo today made a big deal about the big number of discharges from New York hospitals, people that no longer need treatment. And that's one aspect of this that's really not been reported since day one, since that whole Johns Hopkins website was first developed and first published. The number of recoveries has never been a singular item reported here. And then there is the undeniable fact that there are forces in the American culture who want you to continue to think the worst of this, and they want you to blame President Trump for it. They want you to think it isn't getting better, that it won't get better because of Donald Trump, and now the MyPillow guy. Man, what a teachable moment that was yesterday as well, which we'll get to all of this as the program unfolds before your very eyes and ears today. So the researchers estimate that the overall death rate of coronavirus to be about 2/3 of 1%. But that number goes up in older adults. 7.8% of those 80 or older are estimated to die after getting the infection. But the deaths were estimated to be exceedingly rare in children younger than 9. The fatality rate there is infinitesimal. So go figure. All I know is this is not sustainable. And now they're talking about giving everybody masks. And the surgeon says, I don't think we need to give everybody masks. You put masks on everybody, you're just going to create a psychological downturn. This is not sustainable. I also want to share with you something. Governor Cuomo, he gave a pretty rousing, attempted to be motivating address here to the people of New York. And he put up a slide that said, we know what we have to do. We just have to do it. And here are the 4 things that we have to do, according to Governor Cuomo. We have to have individual discipline. We need government skill and performance. We need social stamina, and we need national unity. For what? To sustain this? The discipline to watch the economy peter out? The discipline to watch government skill and performance try to manage the decline, once again, of the U.S. economy? Social stamina? Well, I know what that means. Social distancing and staying inside and having the discipline to do so. And national unity. Well, that'd be great, but we've got people that working on trying to prevent national unity where this is concerned. So that's the overriding foreboding thought that I have. And who knows, folks? Listen, the whole program depends where my mouth goes. The remainder of the program, I might divulge even more of what I'm thinking here. You might be able to figure it out. I was also given a challenge by the staff yesterday to watch this Netflix show that appears to have captivated the nation called Tiger King. And I was told that it is once you tune in, you can't turn it off. That it is the most, whatever negative thing you've ever conjured, and it never ends. It's despicable. It's sick. It's it's what have you. So I tuned in. I watched this thing. And I remember I tried to there's something on Netflix that's far better than this. And I told you people about it, and you acted like you didn't know what I was talking about. And it's called Making a Murderer. And it's a real-life thing about a guy in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, Stephen Avery. It's a Netflix series, and if you want to get scared, if you want to watch something, oh my God, are these people actually voting? Watch Making a Murderer. Now, I don't deny that Tiger King is. I could easily turn that thing off. I was unlike you. I was not compelled to keep watching this thing, and not because it was sick, and not because it was depraved. I mean, once I got my fill of seeing the big cats, that was it for me. All I cared about was seeing the big cats. You know, the most fun I had was this guy gets his AK-47, starts lighting up a pond or something with it. I started laughing when that happened. Well, you know, to each his own. I didn't finish the first episode. There's probably 10 minutes left of the first. Yeah, that's what I haven't seen the best parts. There's 7 episodes, and they supposedly get worse. So the last thing I saw was that Joe Exotic himself is in a cage now. He's behind bars in jail for murder for hire plot against that wacko babe in Tampa whose husband is missing. I guess. Go to the. I'm trying to find a Slate button here.
Rush Limbaugh pointing the way.
Are still going up.
We're studying the charts. We're trying to study the data, follow the data. The data is uneven. It bounces. Numbers often bounce in any model. There are variables in this model. You see the basic line is still up.
Oh, goody.
What the statisticians will tell you is you basically draw the straight line that the columns indicate. And you see that we're still going up.
Goody.
Which is what we see on the overall trajectory, that we're still going up.
So Governor Cuomo has reassured the media we're still going up. We're still getting an increasing number of cases, which is good for the Get Trump movement. And now it's good because sometimes you need an emergency to force change. It's kind of like Rahm Emanuel. You don't want to let a good crisis go to waste. And Barack Hussein O. has tweeted. Obama has weighed in, quote, "We've seen all too terribly the consequences of those who denied warnings of a pandemic." Who the hell is he talking about? Pelosi? The Democrats in New York City? He said, "We can't afford any more consequences of climate denial." So now they're linking climate change to this virus, to this pandemic, which started in China. And that's just the first 2 lines of the tweet. There's more to it. I'm out of time for now. Back in just a second. At the EI Southern Command are in South Florida. We're in Palm Beach County, which geographically is a large county. And so you would think, you look at the case data here for Palm Beach, the number of cases, coronavirus, the number of deaths. One of the things that interests me is the hospitalization numbers. Because if you look at Drudge, if you look at the drive-by media, you would believe there's not a single hospital bed in this country, right? You have been led to believe that every hospital is overflowing, that dead bodies are in body bags and refrigerated trucks that are being parked off the landfills or whatever. I mean, some of the most incredible reporting I have seen. And it is in New York. It is in Washington, D.C., Maryland, the eastern seaboard states, that there's not a hospital bed around, that the hospitals are overflowing. If you have to go to the hospital, you may as well just pack it in and die. So I wanted to find out what the hospitalization rates were here in Palm Beach County, because we've been shut down like everybody else has. We've been shut down to the middle of April. We got shelter in place, and you better not be caught on the beach. The turtles can go to the beach, so we can't. You better not get caught on the beach. You better not be caught within 10 feet of anybody else, or they'll write you up on the town website. Anyway, here's the case data for Palm Beach County. Total cases in Palm Beach County of coronavirus, 514. Of the 514 cases, 488 are residents of Palm Beach County. 24 are non-residents. The age range, 0 to 99, men 268 cases, women 237, so it's fairly equal. There have been 11 deaths in Palm Beach County since this all began to be tabulated. Now, I don't have data for other states. That will come at some point. I've got a website here where this is Florida's COVID-19 data surveillance dashboard, and it's the latest official numbers from the Florida Department of Health. So, I know numbers on the radio, tough to follow, but let me go again. Total cases in Palm Beach County, 514. Total deaths, 11. Hospitalizations. The number of people who are hospitalized with coronavirus, 57. Does that strike you as a large number? I want you to think of the way this is being reported, particularly about New York and other places where there's not a hospital bed to be had, where they're putting people in the hallways. There's no ventilators. There's no nothing. We haven't got, we're just in bad shape out there. 514K, 57 hospitalizations. That sounds like a small number to me. Why aren't the hospitalization numbers being reported to us? I mean, if you go to New York, we have field hospitals being built in Central Park. We got the Mercy ship that floated in there. They're clearly trying to create the impression that we don't have any hospitals. We are so overflowing with cases that we don't have any hospitals. It may be true in New York. But again, 57 hospitalizations in Florida. In other words, if you are in Palm Beach County and you happen to come down with this, there's going to be room in hospitals. Now, I'm not urging people to go there. Don't misunderstand. I just, so much of what happens during crises like this, so much of this has been politicized, folks, that it's just impossible anymore to actually find actual truth. Here's the rest of Obama's tweet. Let me, in fact, just read the whole thing to you again. New tweet, Barack Hussein, equating the Chinese virus with climate change and Donald Trump's pulling out of the Paris Accords, essentially. We've seen all too terribly the consequences of those who denied the warnings of a pandemic. Who denied the warnings of a pandemic? Trump didn't deny the warnings of a pandemic. The Democrats did. Pelosi, there are pictures of Pelosi in Chinatown, in San Francisco, urging people to come out. There are pictures, video, stories, New York City politicians urging people to go to their parades in January and February, saying there's no threat from the virus. Who denied warnings of a pandemic? He said, we can't afford any more consequences of climate denial. All of us, especially young people, have to demand better of our government at every level, and we have to vote this fall. Trump rolls back the biggest U.S. effort to combat climate change. Trump administration on Tuesday released a set of weaker fuel economy standards for new cars and trucks, pitting the federal governing against California on a policy key to combating climate. In all of this, Obama's worried about climate change, which is something that we can't control no matter what we do. We didn't cause it, and we cannot stop it. It's the weather. People that tell you it isn't the weather are lying to you because they tell us that increased hurricanes are climate change. Did we create hurricanes? Can we start one when we want it? Can we change the direction of one when it happens? Can we change the strength? No. We can't change the squall line of thunderstorms. We can't make it cooler when it's sweltering. We can't warm it up when it's freezing. We don't have this kind of power. And here come these guys now claiming that we are destroying the climate, the United States specifically destroying the climate, and now it's created this virus. It's irresponsible. Climate change is somehow a more pressing issue than what is destroying the U.S. economy, what is being permitted to destroy the U.S. economy. Do you realize we are letting this happen? I got to dial it back. But we are letting this destruction of the U.S. economy happen. Okay, to the phones. We're going to start with Chelsea. Chelsea in Cincinnati. I'm glad you called. It's great to have you on the program. Hello.
Hi, Russ. It's an honor just to hear your voice. I've been listening to you since I was a little girl.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm concerned about what our country is going to look like when this is over, specifically here in Ohio. We have a governor who's been manipulating our state constitution. Pardon me, I'm sorry. He unlawfully moved our March primary, and then he closed down businesses and canceled schools, all while manipulating our constitution and saying that it was for the public health. So many people seem to be fine with it, but my problem with it is it's all been done illegally, and this sets a terrible precedent. So how do we return to the rule of law and keep our leaders from any party?
I know. Look,
the Constitution.
Chelsea, these are all valid concerns, and I hearken back to my brief appearance via phone call myself. I now know what it is to be a caller, by the way, on this program. I called into my own show last Friday. It's the only way I could do it, and I addressed the massive changes that when this is over, what is this country going to look like? What are the American people going to accept? And the mayor of New York literally said that if people went to churches or synagogues, he was going to shut them down forever. Now, that's the First Amendment. He can't do that. Yeah, I've got it in the stack. You missed that? You're probably watching Tiger King. By the way, they arrested a pastor for holding. I know. They're all of this stuff, and people are accepting it. Not everybody, but people are accepting it on the basis of the health things that we have been told we have to do. Yeah, what this country is going to be like when this is over. How long is it going to take to return to the what we considered normal? If you go back to the Civil War, and not a whole lot of people know this, Abraham Lincoln arrested and put in jail a Chief Justice of the United States. He suspended habeas corpus, but we came out of it. We came out of it with the Constitution intact. We came out of it with our freedoms intact because the Civil War ended with the right, correct side victorious. Now, if you go to the 1918 Spanish flu, the government didn't do diddly squat about it. Woodrow Wilson was the president, and he was totally focused on defeating Germany in World War I. We didn't do diddly squat. We didn't shut down anything. We didn't do anything to protect people. We just let whatever number of people get the disease, and they died. And that's how we dealt with it. If you got it, you got it. If you didn't, you didn't. But we didn't shut down the economy. We didn't change. We didn't stop people from going about their business. We didn't make people wear masks, any of that stuff. Of course, back then, masks were not as prevalent. 1918, a long time ago. In World War II, we suspended a lot of freedoms. We instituted federal withholding to make sure government got its money to fund the war effort. You know that's when withholding started, is World War. Yeah, you didn't know that? Withholding of taxes began, and government-run health care got its all start in World War II. Centralize everything to make more efficient the war effort. And some of the things were instituted survive to this day, like federal withholding and a number of other things, healthcare related. So these are valid questions, and arbitrarily delaying, like the Democrat primary is considered to be over with because they have canceled all the primaries where Crazy Bernie might have a chance to regain. But Crazy Bernie doesn't care. They've bought him a plane. It did something. He's gone docile. Biden is nowhere to be seen. He's going to be the nominee. He can't win it until June 2nd, and that's when he'll be proclaimed the nominee. But it's fixed. It's all rigged. And now they're salivating over finding a way to get Cuomo to run, and that's things are in a huge state of flux. And the longer the American people are sequestered behind closed doors and not participating in anything, the more change there is going to be. I'm getting dangerously close to getting in trouble here, so I am going to go to a profit center timeout.
Listen,
back in a moment.
Conversation I had with these hospital leaders yesterday in that room. If it was not for the coronavirus, I would have never made it out of that room. I mean, what I was saying was so antithetical to the foundation of the business of healthcare in this state, which, by the way, is a multi-billion-dollar business.
Really?
It's right. It was common sense. But sometimes you need the emergency to force change that would be very, very difficult otherwise.
They want to get rid of the private hospital system in New York and have the state, I guess, take it over. And so they're going to use the coronavirus as an opportunity to do this. Okay, Mary Jo, Western Illinois, as we return to the phones. Great to have you with us in the EIB network today. Hi, Mary Jo.
Hi, Rush. Thanks a lot. You talk about not being trusting what the Chicoms tell us.
That's right.
I'm not real sure that I believe what this government's telling us. I think this is a major power grab, and they're overrunning President Trump on this whole thing. In Illinois, we have 102 counties. 52 counties have the virus. So we got 50 counties that don't. I'm one of them. And in Chicago, we've had 101 people killed in the first 3 months of this year, and you have 73 deaths in the whole state of Illinois. I mean, it's just...
Now, wait. 101 people killed, you mean not coronavirus?
Right. Murders, shootings, you know how it is in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, the neighborhood stuff that goes on all through Chicago. Yeah,
right, and we've had 73 deaths in the whole state, and they're I don't know, it's really getting scary to me.
Well, you know, one of the things that I like to before I was absent for a couple of weeks, you go back to 2009 and 2010, the swine flu numbers in this country are staggering.
Right. Tell people to go to that website and look it up. And we never heard a word about it.
No, we didn't. We didn't hear it. We didn't shut down the government. We didn't do anything to change people's behavior. We didn't make people stay at home. We didn't do anything.
Do you think? I don't know. I think sometimes Donald Trump is almost too trusting, that he trusts these people. I don't trust him at all. That Fauci and whether, and
well,
I know he's in a tough.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And I, as the expert communicator, I'll bet you that I can voice exactly what you fear is happening here.
That he's being played.
And because it has happened throughout the Trump administration, here's what happened. Some kind of crisis. Like, let's go back to the first 6 months. Trump tried to work with the system to get Obamacare repealed and replaced. The Republicans in the House thought that he actually was guilty of colluding with China, so they didn't help. For the first 6 months, Trump tried to work within the system and found out that the system was trying to subvert him. Trump wanted unity. He thought there would be, he told me this.
Right.
He wanted unity. Well, after enough time went by, the Republicans in the House finally figured out this whole Russia thing was a scam. It was a hoax. And so they began working with him on things. And you are believing that Trump should have known from the get-go that he was not being helped and should have run roughshod over these people from the get-go. So now we come to this. You believe that Trump ought to know that there are forces arrayed against him rather than trying to help him in the health community here.
Absolutely.
And you're worried that he'll figure it out, but it's going to take a while because Donald Trump likes people. He invests in people. He gives them a chance. And it doesn't take long. Once he finds out that they're not working to help him or subvert him, then he does what you want him to do. And you're fearing he's not there yet. You're fearing he's still relying on people who are trying to undermine him.
Yeah, I think he's too trusting. I think he's not mean enough.
And it's not trusting. It's desirable. He wants this to work. He wants the people that are in these positions to be helping him. He wants everybody to work together to fix this. He's going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, he has the thought that everybody is for the good of the country, and that's not true. We can see that every the media is.
That's a hope. I think he knows that's not the case, simply by the presence of CNN every day and the way they broadcast and the snarkiness in the briefings. He knows, but Trump believes he can overcome all of that. He believes he has the power to persuade and overcome. And up to now, he's been able. Look what he did in the rebuilding of the economy in 3 years. The fear for me is look how little time it has taken to wipe it all out. At any rate, I know exactly I know exactly how you feel out there, Mary Jo. I'm glad you called. I got to go. We'll be back. We'll continue with more right after this.
How does he squeeze?
Is going to wait and see what actually happens with this models business. That means that the that means that there's no thinking involved here. That means we're just reacting to whatever data is discharged in a computer model based on whatever data is put into it. Anyway, phone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. I want to go back to the archives because something has been gnawing away at me. Why isn't California teeming with cases of coronavirus? You look at the homeless populations in San Francisco and Los Angeles alone, where all kinds of sordid disease would be percolating out there and effervescing. Then you have the amount of travel from Asia, specifically from China, into California cities. So I went back January 10th of this year. CNN Travel. 3 billion journeys. World's biggest human migration begins in China. It's a fascinating piece here. China is already bracing itself for an annual homecoming of epic proportions, considered the largest human migration on the planet. The 40-day period when Chinese people head home to celebrate the Lunar New Year Spring Festival with their families officially began on January 10th and it'll end on February 18th. Some 3 billion trips are expected to be made during the 2020 Chunyun period, a slight increase from last year's figures. These figures are staggering. But fret not, CNN reported, because the Chicoms had already planned ahead. Now, I haven't seen one of the factors that I have not seen mentioned in any recent attempts to explain the worldwide spread of this virus is the Chinese New Year. It's the largest human migration on the planet, people coming and going from China. It's a 40-day period. The Chinese people from all over the world head home to celebrate the Lunar New Year Spring Festival, and then they go back. It's January 10th to February 18th, right at the height of the coronavirus epidemic in Wuhan. Now, this article notes that some 3 billion trips are expected to be made during this Chinese Lunar New Year period. And the CNN travel article doesn't even mention coronavirus once. And it existed. The coronavirus was a thing on January 10th. Now we move forward 10 days, January 20th, 2020, the Washington Post of all places. Headline, China virus. Experts says it can be spread by human-to-human contact, sparking concerns about the massive holiday travel underway. This is one of the very few mentions that I could find of any connection between the 40-day Chinese Lunar New Year and the coronavirus. Now, the article in the Washington Post notes that the Chinese finally admitted that coronavirus can transmit between humans more than a month after the first case. Even so, the Chicoms did nothing to seal their internal or external borders, even though they were being flooded with 3 billion travelers. Now, remember, many of those leave. These are people that return to China from all over the world, including the United States, for the Lunar New Year holiday, and then after the 10-day, 40-day period, whatever, they return to wherever they arrived to China from. And so the Washington Post story says, expert says it can be spread by human-to-human contact, sparking concerns about the massive holiday travel underway. So I have here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a piece by Victor Davis Hanson today at National Review Online. Coronavirus, the California herd. Mr. Hanson today is writing about the California population is 40 million. Do you know how many coronavirus cases there are reported in California? Deaths, I should say. 150 deaths out of 40 million people. With all of that travel from China that was occurring even independent of the Chinese New Year, there's daily travel to and from China, business and pleasure, in and out of San Francisco, San Jose, Los Angeles, LAX. I mean, you name it. Thousands and thousands a day to and from China. 150 deaths. That is a percent per million death rate less than half of Germany's. So what explains how is it that California is not the epicenter? California, as many models have been predicting, should be ground zero of infection, and yet it appears not to be. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has assured his state that over half the population will soon be infected. That is, more than 25 million coronavirus cases are on the horizon, the governor says, which at the virus's current fatality rate of 1% would mean that the state should anticipate between 250,000 and 500,000 dead Californians in the near future. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti predicted this week Los Angeles would be short of all sorts of medical supplies as the epidemic killed many hundreds, as is the case in New York City. It has been well over 2 months since the first certified coronavirus case in the U.S., so one might expect to see early symptoms of the apocalypse recently forecast by Governor Newsom. Yet a number of California's top doctors, epidemiologists, statisticians, and biophysicists have expressed some skepticism about the bleak models predicting that California is on the verge of a statewide or even national lethal pandemic of biblical proportion. 150 deaths so far. With all these trips now, it may be, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm going to make sure that I am just speaking as a layman here, but it could well be that so many Californians have been exposed to this virus. You know, 5,000 to 7,000 Chinese arrive at California airports every day. You go back and count that up, add it up from December, January, February. What if the people of California have somehow been made immune to it? Because they've been exposed to the virus and don't have it or found a way to fight it off. It's a gigantic question. California ought to be the epicenter. It ought to be ground zero of addiction, and it isn't. Now, the governor clearly says it's coming. Governor Newsom and the mayor of Los Angeles both say it's coming, so it may be premature to be commenting on this. But it's still the disparity here in the number of cases and the number of deaths and the number of hospitalizations of California versus, say, New York and some states on the East Coast is striking. Also, our old buddy, we had a call in the previous hour from a woman in Cincinnati, very, very worried that elections will never be the same because they're arbitrarily being canceled, delayed, shut down. And in many cases, they're arbitrarily being delayed, shut down for the benefit. And in many cases, they're arbitrarily being delayed. And in many cases, they're arbitrarily being delayed, shut down for the benefit of a particular political party. Well, let's go to the state of Virginia and Governor Ralph Northam. Ralph Northam has just issued a stay-at-home order for everybody in the state of Virginia until June 10th. Nobody can leave home in the state of Virginia under penalty of whatever for Governor Northam until Wednesday, June the 10th. Now, why did Governor Northam in Virginia choose Wednesday, June 10th, as the date that people can finally leave? Well, guess what? The Republican primary in Virginia is June the 9th. Did you know that, Mrs. Snerdley? The Republican primary in Virginia is June the 9th. And Governor Northam now said people can't leave their homes until the next day, June the 10th. Governor Northam announced this yesterday, said he issued a statewide stay-at-home order that takes effect immediately. So it could well be that Governor Northam is attempting to affect turnout for the Republican primary. Of course, Trump will be unopposed, but he's trying to do something here that might suppress what looks like Republican enthusiasm out there. So for you in Virginia, you can leave home the day after the Republican primary. Order by order of a Democrat governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam. I got to get back to the phones. I'm in Manalapan, New Jersey. This is Robert. It's great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush. How you feeling?
I'm feeling normal for the first time in about 3 weeks, and I mean normal. First time in 3 weeks. Thank you for asking.
I'm glad to hear that. This is the 5th time on your show, so I feel very lucky. I don't know how I get through to your show so many times. But what I want to say, I'm more concerned, because listen, the human race is going to survive this. We survived wars, epidemics, flus, plagues. We'll survive it. I'm more afraid of how we're going to survive the people in this country. I mean, we got people ratting out neighbors because they're having parties in their houses. They're calling the cops on them. How quickly people are giving up their rights to move around freely just because they're afraid they think the government's going to keep them safe. I don't know if we're ever going to come back to being the way we were. I mean, what's going to happen next year when it comes back again? They're going to shut down the economy again and just stay home again? It just is insane.
Yeah, see, here we go. I understand your concern. People, it has long been a bugaboo of mine, frustration of mine, of how just naturally trusting people are in government. It's something that's bugged me my whole life. How people are just naturally trusting of so-called experts they don't even know. But it's just the way it is. People just are. People want to believe the government's looking out for them. The government's trying to help them. They believe me, after 30 years of hosting this program, it is a monumental feat. It's taken 30 years to persuade a whole lot of people that certain elements running government are not looking out for you, that they're actually attempting to diminish you. But you mentioned again Dr. Fauci. See how this was? Dr. Fauci said, well, it's going to resurface in the fall, but it won't be the same because we're going to know a lot more. It is going to be identically the same. And, one other thing I meant to mention in a previous caller, we're now entering the, in most of the country, it's warming up. And we have been told that the virus doesn't do well as it warms up out there. Outside the body, the virus doesn't survive well. So we're getting into the feel-like temperatures in the 90s down here in South Florida, finally. We've had a really rotten winter, folks. It never got above 75 down here all winter. That's bad. I don't mean to be complaining about it, but it's just the way it is. At any rate, so that supposedly should be good news. So Dr. Fauci says, he was asked a question by somebody in the media, is there going to be a rebirth of the virus in the fall? Oh, no question there, William, it will come back in the fall. Really? We know this? Yeah. And then they said, well, that's not good, Doctor. Well, no, we're going to know a lot more in the fall than we knew when this started at the beginning of this year. Well, we're not going to have a vaccine until we have a vaccine. All this is academic, is it not? I mean, look at this. All of this social distancing. They say it's working. And it probably is. But are we prepared for 18 months of this until we get a vaccine? Are we prepared for 12 months of this? till we get a vaccine or a pharmaceutical cocktail that defeats it until there's a vaccine. We're really hoping that Clarkson is it. And we're also wondering if Clarkson is it, if anybody will actually admit it. But so everybody quarantines or everybody social distances, and we flatten the curve. Do a good job flattening the curve. And then somebody says, okay, flatten the curve. We're on the other side of the hill. We're on the downhill side. You go home now. You leave home. You go to work. But wait, there's no vaccine. People leave home. Transmission starts all over again. And then what does government do? Up. We released you too soon. Got to go back home. Social distancing and so forth. No, I'm just saying we have some serious questions that we're going to have to face and answer, because this is not sustainable. It just isn't. Taking this economy back to recession or Great Depression circumstances. Does anybody want that? So what's the question? Well, the question is, kind of asks itself, and I am kind of saved by the bell here. I got to take a break. Don't go away. Back in a moment.
On your big screen.
And I think much better made, much better produced. Anyway, here's some headlines on Fox. Just to share with you some headlines on Fox. Hospitals reach breaking point amid surge of coronavirus cases. Well, not here in South Florida. Hospitals are not near a breaking point. Next headline, and it's a quote attributable to Dr. Keith Armitage. Rate of new cases decreasing in New York. Similar trends being reported in California and Washington. Wait, what? Rate of new cases decreasing in New York. Governor Cuomo just said today that they're still going up. That you can chart the graph and they're still going up. Thereby comforting the media that the news is still bad. But Dr. Keith Armitage, rate of new cases decreasing in New York. And folks, West Virginia, 1 death. What explains this? I'm just asking questions any layman would ask. Why the hell is California not the epicenter here? Could it well be, with all of those travelers, 5,000 to 7,000 a day coming in and out of California from China from December on, could it be that Californians have already faced down the virus and beat it by being exposed to it and creating mutations in there? Could it be? I'm just asking. I need to have some medical professional tell me if this is indeed possible, because it doesn't make sense that California is not ground zero for this. And let's see, another headline here on Fox. U.S. death toll from coronavirus eclipses China's official count. Got to take another break. Back in a minute. And so I'm glad to be back here and just feeling normal for the first time in a while, which is going to be short-lived. Plan B will be implemented soon, and then I'll start feeling like crap again. But that's what I mean. Not consistently, and it isn't going to be as bad as what this. I mean, I had to undergo weeks of medical prep because what they threw at me was kick butt stuff, clinical trial stuff, and it worked. That's the irony. It worked, but I couldn't do it. And well, what about reducing reducing the dose? That's not. There's a plan B. We're going to get a plan B pretty soon. Hey, folks, it is what it is. But I've got this respite here where I'm literally feeling normal and feeling great, and I'm great to be back here. It's a great opportunity that I never ever take for granted being here. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, let me get back to the phones here. Katie, San Andreas, California. Hi, great to have you with us. Hello.
Hi, Rush. It's an honor to talk to you. I've been dreaming about this day for so long because I was a Rush child, I'm raising Rush children now. My mother is probably listening to this, and she's like, oh, my God, she got on.
Well, congratulations. That's great to hear.
And I also want to say mega prayers to you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you all the time, and we pray for a full recovery.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I was told I need to get to the point. I live in a small community in California. I wanted to talk about and share with you how this is affecting us. I'm homeschooling my children now. I have 3 children, 8, 5, and 2, and this has rocked our world. We are healthy, thank God, but it's rocked our world in the fact that I don't know how to teach my daughter Common Core. I don't know how to teach the reading strategies that are expected so that she's going to pass the state test. I don't know how to teach reading to my 5-year-old with the expectations that they're teaching. I'm concerned for their future education. My husband and I have the conversation daily. Do we hold them back? What do we do? They are missing a third of the school year. And like you were pointing out before, why? The numbers aren't there. I'm having such a hard time wrapping my head around this. We're changing everyone's daily life for such a small
The
percentage.
the California situation. Now, one thing, I need to be as accurate as I can here. And the New York metropolitan area is home to the largest and most prominent ethnic Chinese population outside of Asia, the Chinese.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't mitigate the fact that 5,000 to 7,000 Chinese per day flying into and out of California every day for who knows how long, and that the numbers of people infected and the death toll in California is so far below what common sense would tell you it should be. And there has to be a reason for it. As a layman, I don't know what it is.
I can't wrap my head around it. We've been locked down. They canceled school the week of St. Patrick's Day, so the 16th of March, they canceled school. The kids were supposed to be on spring break for 2 weeks. That Thursday after St. Patrick's Day, so the 19th, I guess, our governor, who's a genius, put us all on lockdown. And, you know, we've been sheltered in place. My husband has an essential job, so thank God he's still working and he's still getting paid. But I mean, you're just changing everyone's day of life, and I just have a hard time. I'm just having such a hard time with it.
Well, let me get back to your homeschooling question. Are you, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, you don't want to do it? You would rather they be exposed to Common Core?
No, I'd rather than not. See, I guess I'm torn on that one. I think the social aspect of my kids going to school, they miss that daily. But then for me to make sure that I'm still teaching them so they're not going to be behind next year, I feel like I have to expose them a little bit to Common Core. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I get what you mean.
So I'm a former teacher. I taught 9 years ago.
Let me, I was thinking about this over the weekend as I was plotting my return to the EIB studios, and I was just recording random thoughts as I had them so that I wouldn't forget them. And one of the, one of the random thoughts I had, I heard somebody, I don't remember, it doesn't matter, complaining about having their kids at home with them all day and what the hell they were going to do. And kids don't do well at home. They got to get out, but they can't get out. People are going crazy. So I thought, you know, I happen to like home. I've built my life around being home. I get everything I need at home. I've set it up that way. I don't have to leave home for anything. I love being home. I've always dreamed of having a home. It's one of my quirks. So how can I be helpful and transfer this attitude to other people? Because right now, people don't have any choice. We're being ordered to stay home under penalty of this or that. So what can you tell your kids? Well, educating them is, you have such a golden opportunity here. You have no choice. They are at home. They're prisoners. You're prisoners. You have a golden opportunity to correct whatever kind of dribble they have been taught. And you don't have you're not under time pressure. You don't have to do 8 hours of school a day. You can devise your own method for doing this. You can instill in them the concept of nationalism and patriotism and tell them exactly why they have to stay home. You know, they're not too young to learn. How old are your kids?
They are 8, 5, and 2. And that's what I've done.
the 8-year-old is not too young to learn some of these things.
Oh, absolutely not. Like, we start our day with the pledge. We do the Star Spangled Banner. And my 8-year-old, I don't know what she was being taught in school, but she just was under the assumption everything was free. And I was like, no, nothing is free. That is, no. Everything costs money. We're going to go back to capitalism 101 here.
Right. Well, exactly. But in the meantime, there are some other lessons that they're learning. And among them, and this is I wish I had had more of it my whole life, particularly when I was younger, and that's discipline. Mm-hmm. You have an opportunity to teach discipline that you don't even have to be mean about it because there is no alternative. They have to learn to deal with these restrictions. They have to learn to come up with ways to keep themselves, quote, entertained, busy, whatever, to pass the time, because that's the key. And you can find ways for it to be productive. Discipline, I think, is one of the greatest lessons that could be taught during this. And also there is this concept, a lot of people disagree, but there is the concept of denial. They can't go out. They can't do this. They can't do that. You have to tell them why. We're in a war. We have been attacked by an invisible enemy that doesn't care who it attacks and can kill a lot of people. It's your job to keep them safe, and you love them, and that's why this is all happening. And there's certain things that right now they just can't do and just can't have. It's a combination of discipline and denial. You can't always go where you want. You can't always go where you want when you want. And you have to learn to use your time at home to learn things, to become a better person, become more educated, more informed. There are opportunities in all this. I believe that there's good in everything that happens. It may be hard to find. It may be invisible, but it will reveal itself.
I completely agree. And I had my mental, emotional breakdown Sunday when this was going to go on for 30 more days. But then I was like, I need to look at it as a half full glass, that I have the opportunity to spend more time with my children, to influence them in the way that I want them to be influenced, to teach them how great of a country we do live in. And the founding fathers and all that stuff that they're not being taught in school. Like, there is a huge...
There you go. There you go. Now, folks,
that's what I'm doing.
A lot of this stuff, I imagine to some of you, sounds very Pollyannish out there. And to some of you, it may sound very naive and unrealistic, but it is, it is what it is, to use the cliche. And there are opportunities here and that are presenting themselves, and they're not incidental and not insignificant, and they're not cliched. But the other thing, Katie, this can't go on. I'm going to keep saying this until it permeates. This week, you said 30 more days, and then, you know what they're going to do? They're not going to do it in 30-day intervals. They're going to tell us the sequester will continue for another 2 weeks, and everybody will say, "Oh, 2 weeks, I can handle that." And then the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks again. And then another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks, because psychologically it is thought that we'll accept that it might be over in 2 more weeks, every 2 weeks. But this can't go on interminably. It just can't. I'm glad that you called, Katie. And I appreciate the time. I'm going to be a little selfish. I have a teaching aid for you. That would be the Rush Revere series, 5 books that are written for the kids, a little older than your 8-year-old, but she can do it. And then the other 2 that you have will be qualified before long. The Rush Revere series on the founding of America. That's written truthfully for kids in your age group and coming. I'm glad you called. It's great to talk to you. Got to take a quick time out. We'll be back and continue after this.
The Courage.
And as soon as we get it set up, I'll let you know. Here is Tom in Chicago. Great to have you on the EIB network, sir. Hello.
Thank you, Rush. I have to take umbrage with you calling this a Chinese virus. It is a communist virus. Understand that communism is all about moving wealth out of private hands into public control. And that social progress has advanced so far in China that these poor people don't have enough wealth to get the basic subsistence of life. They got to go out and invent new food sources. They're eating bats, for God's sakes. And that virus is now bringing the same social progress to America. It's descending on us faster than the headlines can keep up with it. And I'm not mad at the American left. They've been out there for decades, clear about what their mission is. I'm mad about our side for not recognizing this communist revolution taking place from the highest offices of government, media, and education. If we're not willing to admit the enemy among us, if we're not willing to prosecute treason where treason is found, then we should stop complaining about it, just accept it.
Okay, well, I'll let that stand, as I know that I'm being inundated with people who have that point of view. That's not the Chi-Com virus, it's the communist virus, that we're being overtaken. The Chinese communists are doing it. You're the only person I know who thinks it's happening without the cooperation Democrat Party, however. Most people tell me they think the American left is the worldwide communist party now, and that they are willingly subverting this economy and destroying it for the purposes of eliminating and wiping out capitalism. And whether that's happening or not, whether that's the design or not, that is happening. This economy is being shut down. That's what, this is not sustainable. I'm sorry. I'm sounding like a broken record on this, but it is not sustainable. Are we just going to sit by and watch $22 trillion? That's the value. That's the sum total of the GDP. That's the U.S. economy. We're going to sit by here and watch it evaporate? Because that's what we're doing under the guise of not losing any unnecessary life, meaning we want to try to save as many lives as we can. At any rate, I appreciate the call. Joey in Austin, Texas. Welcome, sir. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Mega prayers, Rush. Nice to hear your voice.
Thank you, sir.
I kind of want to shift gears to something. I don't know if this could be a positive. I don't know if it's even a reality. But I've sort of watched the president's interactions with the experts, the medical experts, and what is traditionally parts of the, I don't know, you'd call the medical expert or even the educational expert group usually belongs to the political left. And, you know, he treats them as experts. He doesn't answer their questions. He brings them up to the microphone to ask their questions. And as you were talking about, you know, modeling and all these different things, I just have noticed how the left, the Democrats, have been treating these experts that are traditionally in their, you know, under their tent, and wondering if something similar is happening here, as has kind of happened with the African-American vote. If there's an unintended consequence as they continue to falsely report the statistics, falsely play around with these people who are professionals, if they start to, you know, think about migrating away from the Democrat Party. You may have to help me interpret what I'm trying to say here as a radio professional.
Well, yeah, let me. I'm not sure I get it. Are you suggesting that the Democrats are worried about the defection of African American votes to Trump, and so what?
I'm saying that I've seen that happen.
Which experts might turn on the Democrats?
Well, let's just think of generally.
Do you think Dr. Fauci is going to turn on the Democrats? Is that what you're asking me?
No, I've noticed, like, as I've watched the pressers and different things, he's had to call out reporters. He's had to call out people on the left for misquoting him, for misrepresenting the things that he's saying.
Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by that.
Okay.
The original number of 2.2 million's out there, isn't it? Despite Dr. Fauci correct, it's still out there, isn't it? The president's even using it. No, look, I will address this. I'm out of time here. I'm not being rude, but I have to say goodbye because we just simply, this is a hard break, as they say in the biz. Got to be back here in just a second. Don't go away.
The magic will continue on the EIB.
It's just something that they privately probably seethe over. And this is what the caller was getting at, the correlation between that and the African-American community seeing how much benefit there was with the Trump economy, the Trump administration, versus 50 years of basic stagnation with the Democrats. So it was a valid point. Now, here's something else. I keep going back to California. I'm sorry, as a layman and somebody of unending curiosity, it just puzzles me all to no end that California is not a much closer ground zero or many more cases. And here's a story from the Gateway Pundit, Zero Hedge. Sweden decides, and the left loves Sweden, do they not? Crazy Bernie, they all love Sweden. Sweden decides to let coronavirus run its course in the country without destroying its economy or future. Sweden is taking a different approach in battling the coronavirus pandemic. The country remains open for business. Life goes on as usual, few restrictions. The political leaders are placing responsibility on the individual. What does that mean? What is placing responsibility on the individual? It's very simple. If you're sick, stay home. If you are old and or otherwise enfeebled and susceptible, stay home. If you cannot help but interact with the old and or otherwise enfeebled, stay home. Sweden is leaving these decisions up to its own citizens. Sweden is placing responsibility on the individual. They have taken a slightly different approach to the coronavirus. Life goes on as normal. Now, Denmark is not doing this. Denmark has restricted meetings to 10 people or fewer. Swedes are still going out to nightclubs, hanging out with friends, even enjoying ice creams together, according to the BBC. So they are getting it over with. They're having whoever's going to be exposed to it, deal with it, telling sick people to stay home, don't expose yourselves, don't take unnecessary risk, but they're not shutting down the country. Now, they have limited gatherings to 50 people as of Sunday, but the government is largely leaving decisions over self-isolation and social distancing up to individual citizens. The BBC notes that almost half of Stockholm residents are working remotely, that traffic is quieter than usual. Stockholm's public transport company reports 50% fewer riders. So people on their own are, without government pressure, government force, if they're sick, they're staying home. If they think they might get sick, they're staying home. And the disease is essentially being allowed to run its course. Grab line 2. We got Barbara in Orange County, California, and she has somewhat of a similar theory about California since I'm expressing interest in it. Hi, Barbara. I'm glad you waited. How are you?
Hi, Rush. I'm great. Mega prayers to you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to talk to you. I love you. I love your show. I love your optimism. It's contagious.
Well, I hope it is genuine. I just don't want it to mislead anybody.
And no, you don't mislead. I was listening to your show this morning, and you were touching on California.
Yes, ma'am.
And how you were surprised by the numbers, and that you would think that it would be going a lot crazier than it actually is, or it seems to be. But I have my family, my neighbors, my neighborhood, a lot of people in my community, we all sort of have the sense that we've already kind of experienced the coronavirus. We've had like flus, what we thought were flus, went to the doctor and they were negative, and we've had, my husband couldn't get out of bed. He was having a hard time breathing. He took an asthma spray. They recovered. My neighbors recovered. But we think that it's been around since like January, like early January.
Well, so what you're essentially saying is that you people in California have already you've dealt with it. You've had people get it, not get it, be infected, some severely, some not. 150 people are dead, but happened while you didn't know it was happening because it happened before any of these warnings and alerts happened. So you basically have already been through it, and you've already dealt with the impact of it. And it,
yes, in a sense, we didn't know when it was going on.
Right. You had it. You didn't know it. Some people never have symptoms. Some people thought you had just the flu. You didn't know coronavirus from coronavirus, so you didn't know what you had or people that had it.
Exactly.
And so it just ran its course. This is your theory?
This is my theory. And now that we're all on lockdown and we walk in the neighborhood more often than we did before, more people are walking than they did before. And even people in the community that we'll see in passing, they'll all say that they all had something similar, that they would get flu tests and they'd be negative, and there's not just a small group; it's a big group of people that say that.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate that, and I'm glad you called. Again, folks, as I have to always point out here, I'm saying do not associate anything I'm saying with anything official, and do not associate anything I'm saying with or expertise in medicine or health, because I have neither. I'm no different than anybody else. I've just been a patient. And I just have a natural curiosity about things. So I'm merely speculating. And so I don't want anybody to think that I am telling you with ontological certitude what has happened in California is my wild guess. Now, some of you are saying, well, why don't you? Look, you could get anybody on your program you want. You could get Fauci if you wanted. You could get anybody. Why don't you get experts instead of sitting there and speculate? Because they're everywhere else. And they're not going to say anything different here than they're saying anywhere else. Snerdley saying, yes, they would, because you're going to ask them different questions than they're being. Well, maybe so. I don't know. But, well, I know that's another thing. The information is so contradictory. But... Yeah, I have too. I've read that there are 8 strains of it. And there may be, and we don't have a vaccine. The reason this is different than the flu, and I'm going to try to say this as accurately as I can. The reason this is different than the flu is that we have vaccines. We have flu shots. We have cataloged and have ability to treat the various mutations of the flu virus. There's a new one. There's a swine flu. There's the bird flu. There's the Wi-Fi flu. Whatever the flu is, we have a vaccine for it at some point. And because we have a vaccine, we have accepted the number of deaths, anywhere from 30 to 60,000 deaths a year from the flu. We've accepted it because we have a vaccine to protect most of the people. We've got nothing. We don't have a vaccine. We don't have a treatment. We've got nothing. This thing is the equivalent of an airplane crash every day. And you know what that does to society? And so it's got people scared out of their gourd because there's no way to fight it right now other than sequester and socially distance and so forth. And this is why people are willing to do it, because they're seeing all the stories of people dying who get this thing. But there are thousands of recoveries. Not everybody dies who gets this. It's like any other disease. Not everybody who gets it dies, which is true even of cancer. But I mean, the degree of, I don't know what you want, paranoia or fear that has been created here is real, and it's therefore has to be dealt with. And until there is a vaccine or an acknowledged medical treatment, and this business with the chloroquine and azithromycin, it seems to be working everywhere it's tried in the vast majority of cases. And yes, yet it's not being it's not being trumpeted. That makes me curious as well. I got to take a break, folks. Hang on, we'll be back and continue after this.
When you read the
network, get it. At any rate, folks, data breaches. Everybody's at home, and we need the internet, and we need the electrical grid. We need all of this stuff to continue to run. This is our connectivity. And because everybody's at home and relying on this stuff more than ever, data breaches are happening all the time. Some are reported, particularly if the company or entity is a high-profile one. Many are not. You'd be amazed at how many mom-and-pop businesses and doctors' offices are data breach victims, meaning they get hacked and the members or patients or whatever, customers' data is stolen. It happens easily. Employee working on a computer may accidentally click on a link that allows malware to infect a computer. That's often all it takes, and it happens silently without anybody's noticing it, and it may not be announced for months. How do you protect yourself here? It's very simple. LifeLock. You may need LifeLock more now than ever. No one company can prevent all identity theft, but LifeLock's online protection systems are constantly working, constantly scanning the web, looking for evidence that you, as a LifeLock member, have been compromised. They're looking for evidence your information is being used illegally. If they see it, they alert you immediately. You got a restoration team that'll work with you to fix it. They won't stop until it's fixed. Sign up today at LifeLock.com and use my name. You'll get 25% off for the first year. It's LifeLock.com and my name, which is Rush. That's the promo code. And once you become a member, they create your online profile and your protection begins immediately. We'll be back right after this. Number 4. Now, this is under the umbrella of all kinds of confusing news because we had a soundbite earlier today. Governor Cuomo in New York assuring us the number of cases are going up. And we got I got a screenshot here from Fox News from some guy named, what's his name? Here it is coming up. Hang on, be tough. His name is Dr. Keith Armitage. Rate of new cases decreasing in New York. Similar trends being reported in California, Washington. Cases decreasing. This afternoon, Fox News. Governor Cuomo today said, no, the cases are still going up, assuring the media. Here is Allison Camerata this morning on CNN.
We've just gotten a headline information here into CNN that says that the rate of growth of COVID-19 in New York appears to be slowing a bit. Do you know anything about the daily increase in the rate?
Yeah, Allison, we've been following that fairly closely, and it does appear to have slowed now a couple of days in a row. That could be good news.
Whoa, what are we to believe? The governor of New York's case is still going up. The media gets hyped. CNN this morning and a guy on Fox saying, no, the number of cases in New York is going down. Hospitalizations, they want you to believe hospitals are overflowing, but they're not all over the country, maybe in certain places. Let's go to Dr. Fauci, audio soundbite number 6. This morning, also on CNN. The question to Dr. Fauci, tell us where you're seeing early signs of improvement. I know that New York has seen a decline in the rate of growth in new infections. What else are you seeing that gives you some hope that the curve is being flattened somewhat?
What we're starting to see right now is just the inklings, and I don't want to put too much stock on it because you don't want to get overconfident. Just want to keep pushing on what you're doing. You're starting to see that the daily increases are not in that steep incline. They're starting to be able to possibly flatten out. I mean, again, you look at it carefully, hope it's going in the right direction, but that's what we really are trying to attain, that multi-phase component where it ultimately starts to come down.
We have inklings the curve may be flattening. So everybody today, except Governor Cuomo, is talking about the number of cases going down. Governor Cuomo in his presser at noon assured the media cases are still going up. We're getting to see some sort of flattening. Okay? That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. It proves that social distancing is working. But we can't continue to create this flattening with social distancing alone. Now, Governor Cuomo also said something else today. He said that we're all going to be able to go back to work when we finally get a test. When we get a test that we can take quickly and show who's got it and who doesn't, that this is going to mean we're going to be able to go back to work. Now, that really perked my ears up because a test is not a vaccine. I want to go to Carolyn in Virginia Beach, who is a nurse, wants to weigh in on this. Great to have you. Hi.
Hey, Rush, mega dittos and mega prayers. So I'm an old ditto head here.
Thank you.
Real quickly, I mean, I'm just a dumb nurse, but my thoughts are, with this Abbott test that Trump was talking about yesterday that's coming out to, originally they said the hospitals, the doctor's offices, and urgent care. So, people are it's going to be a much better way of testing people. It's like a 15-minute test, and they're saying that they can test like 100,000 people a day or something. I don't know if that's an accurate number, but anyhow. So people are all going to be tested to see if they've had it or not had it, because like that person Barbara said, there's a lot of people out there that have had it that didn't know. They'll be positive, and that's going to also change this whole percentage of death rate and everything. But the other thing that I think they need to do is give the hydroxyquinone to all healthcare workers, because it supposedly decreases the viral load.
Is it useful as a prophylactic?
They have said, yes, they think that it is, which is why, it worked as an anti-malarial drug.
Right.
Because it decreases the viral load. It may not prevent you from getting it, but it'll decrease your viral load, and you may not have it as long or as severe.
Right.
Because I think a lot of the healthcare people are getting a huge viral load. These ones that are getting really sick, there's a lot of physicians that are, in critical care and whatnot, and I think their load has been so high. And I don't know, but, these are just my thoughts. So you get everybody, so once you have patients getting it, that they feel can get it along with the Z-Pack, and then you get the healthcare workers getting it, then they can start sending it out to people in the country. You get it from your doctor, you go to a drive-thru to get it at, Dairy Queen, whatever, so that the people in the country are getting it. And then those people that have already tested positive, you can let them start going back to work again. Of course, there has to be a way of taking their temperature, because they say they can still get it again. But if people are taking the hydroxyquinone, then it's not going to be as severe. And I just feel like there's a way of doing this whole thing without keeping us.
You seem to believe that it is related to the testing. If the testing could get up and running, and we could get some definitive quick answers, so we could get people back to work quicker based on testing, not a vaccine.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the vaccine, they say it's not going to come for a while. But the other thing
18 months.
But the other thing that they have been doing, though, is taking the plasma from people who have been positive, and I don't know what the results of that are, but they can give that to people who are, maybe they're sick, and that gives them, the ability to make antibodies too. So maybe they'll have a decreased viral load. I mean, there's all kinds of studies going out there with drugs, other than just vaccines to prevent the whole thing. And, you said something about the mutation of the virus. They say there's not been a whole bunch of mutations, so that might make it an easier way of getting a vaccine.
Well, then because I had read that there are 8, and Snerdley had read the same thing, and this is why there's so much information out there, and we don't know what is accurate and what isn't. I'm just fascinated by the fact that you believe that once Abbott gets all these tests up and running, that we can start testing massive numbers of people, and that if you've had it, if the test shows that you've had it, then you're good to go. I mean, there are some people. I saw Marty McCasey, who is from Johns Hopkins. He was on TV being asked this question last night of Brett Baer, special report, Fox News. And they don't have any clinical information on it. They've got some anecdotal evidence that some people get it a second time, but they have nothing that's definitive clinical that they can say, yeah, guaranteed percentage of people are going to get it a second time. So you seem to believe the test is key, that if people can get tested and have had it and are okay, that they can be cleared to leave home and go ahead and go to work. I can see that. I can see where the testing would be a relevant factor there. I appreciate Carol in the call. Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, let me take a break. I need to have significant time on the other side of it. The pillow guy, my pillow guy, got raked over the coals for his appearance yesterday in the Rose Garden with Trump. That was an amazing briefing yesterday. We'll talk about it when we get back, so hang on.
The most powerful.
Protected from the people that have the disease when they come in to see them in the hospital, doctor's office, or whatever. It is clear that we don't yet have enough protection for all of the people in the healthcare industry dealing with coronavirus patients. Now, that's spotty. In some states, it's okay, not a problem. Other states, there are shortages of gowns, masks. And I'm not talking about ventilators. I'm talking about the things that would protect the doctors and nurses. And once that's in place, if we could get that up and running where everybody in the health professional treatment world can be guaranteed of being protected against the disease, then it's going to free things up as well. But as long as the healthcare professionals, doctors and nurses, are susceptible to getting the disease and therefore being useless, well, that's going to be a hamstring on any effort at a return to normalcy. Now, very quickly, we have a listener here named Dan. Things were looking up for this guy till the company he was working for downsized just after the holiday season. He had a good-paying job. He just had his best year ever. He had enough money saved to contemplate tackling the one problem that he was hiding from, and that was several years of not paying taxes. He had years and years of IRS debt. Now, he's a listener here. He'd written down the name Optima Tax and their phone number, and he finally called them. And his relief, they offered to handle all the communications with the IRS. The Optima staffers worked out a compromise with IRS agents, a deal that resolved to reduce his tax debt by thousands of dollars, more than the IRS originally demanded. Now, this guy, Dan, is an example of a person benefiting from how Optima resolves tax debt issues with the IRS every day. And the IRS is still out trying to collect, folks. You are a captive audience. Optima Tax Relief is busy. They have resolved more than $1 billion in tax debt. They specialize in an IRS program called the Fresh Start Initiative. Call them today, 800-973-7700 if you have a problem. Optima Tax Relief at 800-973-7700. So yesterday, the White House briefing, including CEOs, each of whom explained how their business is joining the all-hands-on-deck effort to fight coronavirus. Now, the left is calling these commercials, they're calling them Trump rallies. The people at the rally yesterday, at the briefing yesterday, Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow, who announced he's converting his pillow manufacturing company to medical equipment. Darius Adamczyk, CEO of Honeywell. Deborah Waller, CEO Jockey. Company made parachutes in wartime, now makes underwear and so forth. Greg Hayes, the CEO of United Technologies Corporation, 240,000 employees. David Taylor, CEO of Procter & Gamble. Now, these people were proud. They were determined. It was not just optimism. These people were determined to help, fight, and try to maintain the supply chain to keep America running during all this. Well, Mike Lindell of MyPillow freaked the left out completely when its audio slide number 11 said this.
God gave us grace on November 8, 2016 to change the course we were on. God had been taken out of our schools and lives. A nation had turned its back on God. And I encourage you to use this time at home to get back in the Word, read our Bibles, and spend time with our families. Our president gave us so much hope where just a few short months ago, we had the best economy, the lowest unemployment, and wages going up. It was amazing. With our great president, vice president, and this administration, and all the great people in this country praying daily, we will get through this and get back to a place that's stronger and safer than ever.
Now, the media freaked out because separation of church and state. You can't get up there and associate God with the president and with this effort. They were just beside themselves. They started making fun of Lindell, the MyPillow guy. I mean, it was all over the left-wing media. It was all over left-wing Twitter. They were mocking his appearance. Trump just called the MyPillow guy up to the podium in the Rose Garden. You can't make this stuff up. The MyPillow guy was at the coronavirus briefing today. Boy, oh boy, do we need Saturday Night Live this Saturday. If this had been an SNL skit, we would have thought it was fake, right? You can't make this up. who's going to play the mic. You start mentioning God, start mentioning the Bible, start mentioning any of this associated with this effort, and they just literally freak out. Now, they're trying to say, this is a violation of separation of church and state, that the state cannot present a single religion. So that's not what was happening. This is Lindell. He was up expressing his personal beliefs, like every other CEO that stepped up there today. And he is converting his pillow manufacturing apparatus to manufacturing masks and other things for healthcare professionals. Here is grab soundbite number 12. Here's a media montage of the mocking reaction.
These PR stunts like Mr. Pillow coming out and giving a plug for his company.
Then up came the guy from MyPillow who gave an update on his business, in part an ad for MyPillow.
MyPillow, the MyPillow guy up on the days.
You got the MyPillow guy getting up there talking about reading the Bible.
I'd say the MyPillow guy has put his business on the map. MyPillow guy has executed a pretty brilliant PR plan. But the fact that there is such outrage over this, the idea that there is such a visceral degree of anger about it. Somebody simply urging Americans to come together and be strong and vigilant and so forth. We all need faith. Folks, there's nothing without faith. Faith, whether you know it or not, you have it. Whether you believe it or not, you have faith, and you are utilizing it each and every day as you go about your daily life. Never mind, the MyPillow guy is giving up his business to try to help the country. He's literally giving it up and still being mocked. Okay, a brief break, and we'll be back to wrap it up.
Rated the number